Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Micon Podcast. I'm Sean Okimbaloe. This podcast is designed to continue important conversations and give more young Nigerians a say on issues affecting them. The Micon Podcast builds an effort of my every weekday show, Politics Today, and Weekend Sunday Politics on Channels Television. It's aimed at fostering and further deepening awareness in socio-political issues. Now, you've probably seen the viral video of President Bola Tinubu's Let the Poor Breathe. That video dates back to President Tinubu's pre-presidential days when what could be seen as his admonition and desire to see the survivor of those that are at the bottom of the social pyramid. Well, it's almost a month since President Tinubu was sworn into office, and there are those who believe the new administration's policy are not well thought out and may suffocate the poor even more. The effect of subsidy removal is still biting hard. A report by the National Bureau of Statistics showed that Nigeria's inflation rate for May 2023 rose to about 22.41% from the 22.22% recorded in April. There are many statistics I could reel out to support the fact that things are hard, but nothing is more convincing than you taking a trip to the fuel station, to the food market, or to other places where basic necessities are being sold. Our President Bola Tinubu's policies a sharp contrast from his popular statement, all the effects will take a bit of time to mature before it becomes beneficial to the larger number of Nigerians. He's a president making the right calls that will guarantee the poor better days ahead of the poor may get even poorer. Joining me to provide some perspectives to these burning issues. Tonight we have two speakers, and of course, wherever you may be watching or listening, you all also have your own say, and we shall be listening to some of your views, especially as it concerns you. We really want to know how things are going in your area. Things might be biting harder, but how are you reacting to it? Or how are you faring as an average Nigerian, or whatever part of the pyramid you may be sitting, top, middle, or the bottom? We'd like to hear your views tonight, and we'll be allowing you to shed more light. I have tonight joining the conversation and speakers is Mr. Dr. Dikpo Awojide, who is an expert strategist and a career and MSME life coach. Thank you so much, Dr. Awojide. I almost was going to say Mr. Awojide, but I needed to reinforce the fact that the PhD is not thrown away, because that was the bone of contention throughout the week. How did your week go with the PhD thing? Have you removed it from your bio, though?
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Sheon, first of all, for inviting me. No, I haven't removed the doctor or the PhD from my name, but I am 100% comfortable with, people referring to me as Dikpo or Ogbeni Dikpo. Ogbeni, by the way, means Mr. It doesn't make any difference to me, to be honest. But yes, I have that name on my profile on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and I'm not going to take that title away because a few people, think that those with PhDs have to go and hide in a corner and they don't have to, blow their own trumpets. No, that's not going to happen.
Have you resolved your differences with your friend?
We're going to come back to that conversation. I think we should, focus on this very important conversation for tonight.
We will do that. We will do just that. It's good to see you, Ogbeni Dikpo, Dr. Dikpo Awojide, and I'm being joined by the quintessential, ever vibrant Ms. Indy Kato, a politician and a political analyst. Thank you so much, Indy. It's a pleasure having you on the podcast. Thank you so much indeed. How is the fuel situation? How are you faring? You must your what you spend on fueling your car must have doubled.
Yeah, doubled. I've spent over 100,000 already filling my car between the time that they announced this
Wow.
removal
Just
of
in about a
subsidy.
month.
Yeah, and I'm driving a Toyota, so you can imagine what others are going through. I'm hearing those with V8 engines are living in a whole different world right now.
I mean, you cannot even imagine those who now enter into Lagos, Port Harcourt traffic.
Yeah. Oh my God. I never even thought of it from that angle.
Yeah.
Lagos traffic.
So because I mean, I've
Wow.
seen a lot of skits and a lot of memes where people say, "Come on, I cannot put on the AC where there's traffic in these times."
In this, yeah.
You cannot just
also,
imagine.
my staff, because I run a boutique, so my staff were telling me that it's much more difficult getting vehicles for themselves now, because before, what we used to obtain was that people would actually come out with their personal vehicles, and then to be able to buy fuel, they will pick people on the road. But now fuel is so expensive that even picking people on the road is not covering up for
the cost
the
of
cost
fuel.
of the fuel. So they are dropping, those ones too are now dropping their cars at home and taking public transportation, and it's really hell for everyone.
There was a very interesting skit that I watched. There was a family who visited another family, and they had to put on their generator, to put on the AC, and to put on the television and all what have you. And it got to a point in time that they were expecting that the guests should have left because they needed to put off the generator because it cost so much to run the generator with petrol. But I know Dikwa may not be able to experience what this kind of situation. But I know there's no subsidy on petrol in the UK, is it?
I mean, while I don't currently live in Nigeria. I have family members and friends, very good friends who live back in Nigeria, and I perfectly understand, what exactly has been going on in the last few years, and of course in the last few weeks since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was inaugurated as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In the UK, we have a cost of living crisis in the last 2 years. So we are dealing with, our own peculiar challenges in the UK. But of course, they cannot be compared to what is going on, back in Nigeria. The government here, they are trying their best to actually ensure that the cost of living crisis is carefully managed and that the burden on the citizens are reduced. And this is what, I expect as well that the government of Nigeria will actually start doing. So I perfectly understand what is going on in Nigeria, even if I don't live in Nigeria at the moment.
Well, there are those who say, look, what else do average citizens, what do they enjoy? The fuel subsidies should be one thing that they really enjoy, and the government are taking it away from them from a global point of view. And I want us to drill down at some point. From a global point of view, looking at the American experiment, what goes on in France, what goes on in Russia, what goes on in the UK, what's your view about those who think that this is perhaps one thing that a lot of Nigerians enjoy? The roads are bad, the insecurity situation, and just one thing that they enjoy, you have taken away from them.
So, Sean, this is a very delicate issue, but let me start from the comments made by David Malpass, who is the former president of the World Bank Group and undersecretary for the U.S. Treasury. Just 2 days ago, he has actually commended the removal of the fuel subsidy. Let's not also forget that all the leading presidential candidates actually promised that the fuel subsidy was going to go. In fact, the fuel subsidy had already been, removed by the last administration, President, Muhammad Buhari's administration. All what we were waiting for was the implementation. The monies being spent on that fuel subsidy could go towards the healthcare sector, could go towards the education sector, could go towards, fighting insecurity, could go towards, fixing our roads. It's a lot of money, that has actually been spent on fuel subsidy. And, if something is not working, the only appropriate thing that we need to do is to do something else. This new administration, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his team, promised to actually rejig the economy. And I think this is a starting point. I think the administration has actually started on a very positive note. The CBN, the multiple dollar rate is gone, subsidy is gone. The student loan that was promised has now been passed into an act. I think it might actually take time for us to actually experience the positives of all of these, policy changes. But I think we are on the right path. Again, I would expect that in the short term, the government actually comes up with solutions that helps, poor people or people without means to actually, carry on with their lives so that they are not too, negatively impacted by some of these policies in the immediate term.
Indy, do you agree?
Well, yes, to a certain extent, I do think that, again, you need to cushion the fall. These policies, as major candidates had spoken about these policies in their campaign, in their manifestos, they were there. We all had that conversation about fuel subsidy removal. I am in full support of fuel subsidy removal. However, there's something that the governor of Abia State said, and I would apply it to not just fuel subsidy removal, but every other tough decision that has been made so far. He said, look, you shouldn't be taxing poverty, right? Before you make these kinds of decisions, you need to ensure that there's a certain level of comfort. Make sure that the people are wealthier. You have policies that make the people live on a certain level first before you do this, But what we are seeing, on the other hand, is we're making tough decisions at the expense of Nigerians, and I'm yet to see what is being done to make sure that the effect is being cushioned, and that is really what I want to see. Dipo has mentioned things, where you are supposed to put this money. Of course, I'm also expecting to see an increase in salaries for people. I know there is a thin line between that and inflation, but still, people can't be earning the same while all of this is happening. I keep using my store as an example. I mean, for the girls who work for me, I had to give them extra money last week because it just doesn't cover for transportation anymore. It's just not, the people are feeling the bite. People are beginning to leave their cars at home and prefer to take public transport, and even that is barely affordable. So the government needs to look for avenues. And people would say, is that not another subsidy? I don't think so. So where can we make sure that, we've done this? The other aspect is this, the quickest thing is, let's look at increase in salaries. Let's look at increase in minimum wage. But we're shooting these things off. And, Dipo spoke of the student loan thing. I do appreciate the idea of student loans for students. But when it came out, my first thought was, look, they're going to increase school fees. And now we're seeing that happening, and it's not just, it's over 100% increase. It's so, look, even the rates,
it was as if some of these proprietors were waiting.
They were waiting.
They didn't even, it didn't take long before
I'm seeing school fees as high as 700,000. I'm wondering, wow. A government
primary school or secondary school,
government university. Wow. And I'm wondering who is going to be able to pay that. Like, that's for courses like medicine in some of these schools. Who is going to be able to pay that? Nursing, 600 and something thousand. Like, where are we going with that? Courses like ours, mass communication, they put it at 200 and something else. Like, mass com, we are not worthy of. but still, the increase is too steep. It's too high. It's too high. So I think
you're talking about the high end. Some of you middle class and
I don't think I'm middle class anymore.
I have the class of
I don't think I'm middle class anymore, Sean. Please remove me from there.
You talk about the cost of bread.
Mm-hmm.
One of rice, Nigerian staple foods, they've skyrocketed. They tripled in some areas. And I really would love to hear from our listeners and viewers on this podcast. What is happening in their own areas, in their own communities? We're looking at people who are earning less than 50,000.
Mm-hmm.
How are they able to go to work? How are they able to make ends meet? And what are they doing with their lives with what they earn? But that fuel is one thing. We have not even delved into some other areas. Insecurity is another issue. There's been decision by the president. But Dick was said something, and I asked him, that those who think that this is one thing that Nigerian people are enjoying and you've taken it away. You said you agree that subsidies should go, but what about those who have the school of thought that this was not properly planned?
Again, that's where we're coming back to. That I think for me, I think that what should have come first were policies to make sure that whatever is to come, we have cushioned the effect of whatever is to come, not just take it abruptly like that. We were in the middle of a day and a speech was read and our lives just turned upside down, Sheun. That's what happened. Just in the middle of a random day, things just changed for us. We were not prepared, nothing. Bola Tinubu was being sworn in and he made this speech and that was it. I don't think that should have been the way this happened. Again, we should have made sure that policies were put in place, things were put in place. Are you going to increase salaries? Are you going to make sure that people understand properly what this is and how their lives are going to change? They should have prepared us. They should have prepared us better.
I mean,
but we were not prepared
for those who
this,
believe that we are not, they didn't. It was too much of a knee jerk.
Yeah, Indy and Sheon, can I just quickly say that, this student loan, stuff that we had a discussion about earlier. The bill was initially introduced by Femi Gbajabiamila in 2019. It went through the first reading, second reading, public hearing, and the third reading. Then it got, signed off by the president. Then people started asking questions that they should have asked in 2019 and 2020. Sheon, can I just say that there's a policy advisory council report, a document that has now, that was created by, by the new administration, created by the National Economic Subcommittee, Senator Tokunbo Abiru, Yemi Cardoso, and a couple of other people. It has a lot of details and information about what the government plans to do within 100 days, in the short term, in the medium term, in the long term, fiscal policies, monetary policies, industrial / manufacturing and trade policies, capital market policies. I would recommend, to all Nigerians, that we go and take a look at what the government has promised to do. For me, during the election season, I looked at the manifesto of, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, of, Atiku Abubakar, and all of the other candidates. And I decided, okay, this particular person looks like they have, the best policies for us. So the point I'm driving at is, it is very, very important to criticize from a place of knowledge and information. So we need to go and review what exactly has the government said they are going to do within 100 days, within 3 months, within 1 year, within 3 years, or within 4 years. Then we can actually start criticizing or nitpicking on the implementation of the policies.
So, yeah, the thing is that government is essentially in office for the benefit of the people. So whether or not you have a plan, that is of no consequence on the scheme of things. What is important is the impact of that policy, whether you have it or you don't. If you have a policy and the people are groaning without any window of breath air, it's going to be a problem. That is the crux of the matter. Subsidy, as much as a lot of people agree, the question here, which was one of the things that I threw at Indy, is whether or not it was more of a knee-jerk. Could they have handled it better? Yes, subsidy should go. A lot of Nigerians may agree with that, but could it have been handled better so that the effect would sit down well with Nigerians? There's a way that you turn to people and tell them to go to hell and they will be looking forward to it.
Sure. If you state governments have actually, said work from home for a number of days, a few state governments have actually, provided transportation or subsidized, transportation for people citizens within their state. And I think that's the appropriate thing to do. I don't think this was a knee-jerk reaction. What I think we might say that the government needs to do is, alongside implementing these macro policies for the benefit of the country in the long term, in the short term, we also need to do some, implement some policies that would alleviate the suffering of the people. So, for example, increasing the minimum wage managing inflation, stabilizing food prices. These are some things that I have on my own list, that the government actually needs to do. Again, we're not going to feel, the larger impact of these policies, immediately. But in the short term, there are basic things that the federal government can do and that state governments as well can do, to ensure that the suffering of the people of our citizens, is actually reduced. So I mean, I don't think the policy implementation in itself is wrong. I don't think the actions that the new administration have taken, I don't think those actions are wrong. But what they also need to do in the immediate term is implement policies to reduce the suffering and the burden of the Nigerian people.
Dr. Odipo, just for a moment. The crux of it is, if all of us know that it's going to rain and we don't have umbrellas, we know that we're going to get wet.
I was
but
going
we
to
need
say,
to we probably will prepare our minds. And what I'm drawing the minds of everyone to is whether or not there was a proper planning, a proper cushioning. Now, see what the president said in France, Indy and Dipo. He says there was a statement, and I'm reading from the report from Channels TV. It says Tinubu made an assertion that the first subsidy is a scam, and the saying it rewarded smugglers and reduced the burden of the real cost of the commodity of some countries. And I think this is a very popular opinion, but this is where some people got worried. They said Tinubu made the assertion during a meeting with members of the Nigerian community in France, and said a statement by a special advisor on special duties, communication and strategy, Dele Alake, later that day, addressing Nigerians in France. Tinubu explained that the special advisor on monetary policy, Wale Edo and Alake, had excluded fuel subsidy removal from the president's inaugural speech. Quote, but he felt it was expedient to stop the subsidy on the first day. So that's the question I'm asking. I mean, that those, if you see the original text of the president's speech, subsidy is gone was not there. So it's appearing now that the president, extempore, on the spot, just felt he was going to make that decision. So the question is, it doesn't look like we're ready to make that move, as good as it could be, but the effect on the average citizen, forget those who are on the top of the ladder and the middle of the ladder. We are looking at more Nigerians who live under $1 per day, who are in the most of the population in the lower part of the ladder. That is what is the bone of contention here. Was the government prepared for it? It was just a decision on the spot.
Oga Sheon,
I'm listening.
I don't think it was a decision on the spot. Former President Muhammadu Buhari in 2014 or 2015 also called the subsidy a scam. And there are people, I mean, I'm not going to mention any names or lay any allegations, but there were people who were moving tankers and going to sell this oil across the border. So that statement is not new. That statement is not new.
But what I'm referring to is the fact that Dele Alake and Wale Edo had removed subsidy removal from the speech. But so it wasn't on the speech, because you remember that when the president removed it, he was reading his speech at that moment, where he looked up into away from the microphone and said, subsidy is gone. So the question is, were they prepared to make that move? Were there the proper cushions for it for Nigeria to have the absorbing effect? Were they there before that decision was made? So somewhat what some people have criticized as a knee-jerk approach.
So we don't currently have, I mean, from what I've seen so far, from the comments, and interactions with friends and family members back in Nigeria, again, only state governments, have some of, sort of palliatives to actually cushion the effect of the removal of the subsidy. What I would expect to see from the federal government, in the next few days, few weeks, are policies that helps Nigerians at the lowest level, those at the bottom of the pyramid. This fuel subsidy remover is a low-hanging fruit that should have been plucked a long time ago. So it is not wrong that it is being done now. But of course, what needs to be done in addition to that is introducing policies, introducing, actions and programs that helps poor people and those who are at the bottom of the pyramid. Because people are going through hardship. No one can deny that. Nigerians are actually experiencing hardship. So I am personally calling on the government and expecting, that the federal government will implement policies, and programs to reduce the suffering of the masses, and those at the bottom of the pyramid.
I mean, the same question I asked Dr. Dikpo. If the president made allusion to the fact that subsidy is gone was not in his speech, and he said Dele Alake and Wale Edun had removed it, but for some reasons that was, the consequence of the effect of it is what we are seeing now. What are your views on that?
Well, I want to just double back a bit. I don't think that people are criticizing without reading, as people would say. I think we're agreeing on pretty much the same things, unless, we might be saying them in different ways. But I pointed out, look, this could have been better, and you need to look for a way to. That is the crux of this conversation. That's everything in this conversation, right? This policy could have been implemented better, and now you need to bring in policies to cushion the effect for people, and that's as simple as it gets. Right now, I honestly don't know. When you talk about, they have these plans are good, they're excellent. It's good to have a plan, but if I, Indicator, is in a room right now in a vacuum with nothing else, reading the plans of this government, then we can talk about plans. But once I leave that room, I have to go outside and face being Nigerian, Shehu. And that's where the issue comes in. These plans can be as beautiful and as rosy as they can in writing, but what is the implementation looking like? And Nigerians not feeling the effect. We are feeling the effect of this thing, and you need to act faster. That's really it. I don't think that this conversation is that complicated. We had mentioned similar things, and for me, it's that increase. Look, minimum wage needs to go up. We cannot be earning this amount. We cannot be earning this amount of money with what is going on. Like, people are earning, even the 30,000, some states have not been able to implement. And with respect to states attempting to cushion the fall, they have it's a few states that are doing this out of 36 states. I think it was Edo State we heard of with respect to reducing the number of days children go to school. But how sustainable is that? How sustainable is that? I saw something similar in Ghana, not exactly done like this, but it was done in Ghana, and it wasn't so, some people go to school at this time, they wait, and then another group of people go to school at the other time. It's not such a sustainable policy to reduce the number of days children go to school. I don't think it is. However, I think we need to go back to, look, we need to increase the minimum wage, make sure that Nigerians earn better, and we need to ensure that, look, inflation is, I don't know how they're going to do it, but inflation really needs to come down at this point. But what we're seeing is we're seeing an increase in that. If you go to the markets and you see what is happening there, I'm not talking from the point of just a critic. I go to these markets myself. I have to go and shop myself. I have to experience this myself. Everything has tripled. Some things have quadrupled. It's not easy. And I'm not poor. So for those who are poor, one of my staff actually said, and I'm going to keep giving live examples for this. One of my staff couldn't come to work one day of this week. They had asked me for money outside of their salaries, that please, I should give them money. This is not sustainable. And my staff for the industry we are in earn more than people who do this kind of work earn. And still it was bad for them. So they came and said, look, madam, we have talked among ourselves, and we think that you should please give us extra money so that we can come to work to the end of the month. I agreed to that. I delayed the day that I was supposed to give. The next day, the girl couldn't come to work. She said even food to eat, she can't eat. That is what Nigerians are going through. And we're seeing this thing firsthand. We're experiencing it. We're seeing people going through this. We have poorer relatives. So people that come from the north like us, the poverty is biting. It's not easy. Government has to cushion the effect. And so whatever plans they are having, the short-term plan must be to cushion the effect. Short-term plan must be first to cushion the effect of this. I don't know how much longer Nigerians can wait. I know it looks like, we're very good at adjusting. We're very good at something would happen, we'll just stomach it and carry on like that. But at this point, I think people have their breaking point, and this is not a foot to start on.
Is it getting too much for Nigerians? First subsidy, then we are hit by the effect also of the multiple, the merger of the multiple exchange rate. And you wonder, yes, some of these policies may be good.
We're still dealing with insecurity.
Huh?
We're still there with insecurity.
Insecurity is still there.
We're still there with insecurity.
Yeah, just yesterday, the Borno State governor was saying there is a resurgence in attacks on farmers.
Yeah. Plateau State, it has been quite bad in Plateau State. Benue, it has been hitting. Of course, we have all been carried away with the change of government and all of that. So if it was probably Buhari's extended term, we would have been talking more about these things. But there's so much going on in the polity right now that people are carried away and not realizing how bad these things are getting. But things are really getting bad. I know we are supposed to give government time to settle down and all of that. I acknowledge this. Government needs to settle down, yes. But at the same time, hitting the ground running is not a bad idea at all. And, when you're campaigning, as Tinubu said he begged, he danced for this role. So we do have to hold him. We do have to hold him accountable. This is a position that he wanted so bad. We do have to hold him accountable. And I think that the office of the citizen is the most important office in Nigeria. And, where it pinches us, we must speak. And right now it is really pinching hard. So
next time when someone say, I'm going to hit the ground running, you should be expecting some tremor. Dr. Awojide, the tremor, the effect of the tremor is what we're discussing tonight. And it does look to me that there is a multiple effect of some of the policies that if you were in Bola Tinubu's shoes, and it's difficult to be in that kind of shoes, right? Because the villa sometimes just shield you from the truth of what is happening to the average people in the society. These policies, as good as they may be, what are your views on the effect on the average person?
So, if I thought you were going to ask me if I was President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, what would I do? Within 3 months or within 6 months?
Yeah.
I perfectly understand that these policies, taking away the fuel subsidy, removing the multiple exchange rates, trying to sanitize the CBN, the EFCC, and some of the other government parastatals and agencies, in the immediate term, what we are experiencing is a reset of the country. So in the immediate term, there might be some hardship, there will be some hardship. And this is what people are currently experiencing, in the country. In the long term, we are going to reap the benefits, of whatever policies are being implemented, today. But in the immediate term, as I noted earlier, and I do agree with Indy, that the government also has to take some actions. And I did create a list of some of the things that I expected, or that I expect, that the government of President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, would actually do, would actually prioritize, once the administration has been sworn in. So increasing minimum wage, actually tops that list. For years, I argued that Empower initiative that they were paying them, I think it was 30,000 naira stipend. I argued that the minimum they should be paying anybody is 50,000 naira. But Empower was very, very successful, but the money should have been increased, in my own opinion. So the first thing I would expect to see is increase in minimum wage, managing the inflation, stabilizing food prices, investing in human capital. This, for me, is very, very critical. The government needs to create an enabling environment where more jobs are going to be created, where the private sector, actually has capital, to invest, where capital is freed up and, roadblocks and bottlenecks are actually removed. I would expect that the government invest massively in the informal sector, because a lot of times our discussions are always focused around the formal sector, blue collar jobs, but there are millions of people in the informal sector, and the government also has to continue to prioritize, those who work in the informal sector, and tackling insecurity, addressing poverty and inequality. These are some of the things that I expect, that the administration, would actually get to work to do as soon as they've been inaugurated. I mean, it's only a few weeks. Once ministers have been appointed and the government settles down, I believe that we will begin to see more of these actions starting to to be implemented for the benefit of the Nigerian people.
I'm looking at statistics of some of the insecurity situation since President Tinubu got into office. Killings in Zamfara, abductions of women and girls in Sokoto, killings in Plateau, killings in Kogi State, some of which are sometimes politically related violence and all what have you. And you look at all of these vis-a-vis the appointments that have been made. Does any of these give Nigerians hope, Indy?
Well, I don't think it's as simple as changing, who was there, or, because the trajectory, the career trajectory of all of them is the same thing. One person will serve and do very well in Borno State, and then they bring the person to the center. So it's the same thing with General Christopher, I think. He's from Southern Kaduna, a man that we're very proud of. It's coming in after Lucky Rabo, and then the others. I honestly, the only change that I would have applauded like that made me feel that something was going to really change was the change from Buratai and co. That was something that Nigerians really called for a very long time before it happened, because I mean that was a woeful set. But right now it just looks like business as usual. It just looks like new government has come in, and there's a change of guard. Now I'm not seeing actions following that. I'm not seeing, again, we need to see something. Perhaps it's inside their 100-day plan, but as we are waiting, people are dying. I need to see, okay, what are the changes we are going to implement in the way we are approaching this war in the Northeast, the war in the Northwest, and extending to the North Central, even parts of the all over the country. I was calling regions and realizing, I just saw a video of people running in Enugu State. So it's all over the country. So we need to see them taking us in another direction. If what is being done is not working nationwide, I mean, I can applaud some improvements in Hadinka, in Borno and in some of these other spaces. But for Plateau, for Southern Kaduna, for Benue, it's getting worse, and in other parts of the country it's getting worse. So I mean, right now they're still, I would say, people would say, if you ask Deepo now, Deepo will say they are still doing their ceremonial handovers. I guess that's what Deepo will say. And so we need to
do that up until yesterday.
Yes, they're still
Navy,
doing so.
The
so it will look like,
it
will look like these people have not even settled down, and Indicato has already started with them, and that's what it's going to look like.
Dragging them.
So yeah. So on one hand, I'm going to say, what, we need to see more action. And so I hope that when they are done, okay, let's take it like this. When they are done with these ceremonial handovers, we need to see a new direction. Let's see what has worked. And please, I know it's not everything the military is supposed to tell us, because that would be revealing their tactics to the enemy. But I feel that, it's better that the citizens be carried along in what is happening. This whole shrouding in secrecy, I think we should leave it in the past. The citizens need to know what is happening. I'm not saying that you should tell us everything step by step in the war front, but at least some level of reassurance, and let's know, okay, what direction are we going to with this with the war on terrorism? Let's know. So give them time to settle down. They just got in. Some of them, they have not even had full handovers yet. But, time is of the essence. Time is of the essence. And we do not have the time for so many ceremonies. We need to see less flowery language. Like the police IG said, he's like a tiger and all of that. We need to see less flowery language and more implementation of key things that we know that is going to, number one, sanitize this system and make sure that Nigerians are safe.
So just like you referenced that the president has said, look, I begged for the job. In the rain, in the sun,
for it.
I danced for it and all of that. But
did other things. But let me not talk.
What are the other things?
We're in court.
Okay. All right. You've gone to court.
We have gone to court.
So, I mean, the question is, are Nigerians poor breathing? Deepo?
Sean, this is $1 million question.
It was the president himself that said it. He said, "Let the poor breathe. Do not suffocate them." Those are the words of the president himself. Almost a month after he said those words, and I'm asking you, are the poor breathing deeper under President Tinubu?
Categorically, let me say that the Nigerian poor and those at the bottom of the pyramid, they are breathing, they are still alive, but their neck is being choked seriously. And I would like to urge the government and every government appointee to wake up and go to bed every day thinking about the poorest of the poor in our society. We have a responsibility to ensure that we alleviate the sufferings and that choking of the neck of the poor, that we reduce the suffering of the poor people, across the country. There are millions of people who are living in hardship. There are millions of people who were in the middle class before, but who now can be classed as poor because of the economic hardship. So I would expect that the government implements policies, every government appointee, that every morning, every night, every afternoon, they are thinking about how to reduce the suffering of and this is not just the federal government. This is also our state government. Those who like to spend billions and billions on churches and mosques, they need to think about other ways of spending government money, of lifting the society up, investing in youth centers, investing in training and education, giving grants to SMEs, giving grants to innovative young people across our different states. The Lagos state government is trying, implementing some of these policies in the interest of young people. A lot more of our states actually have to take on this responsibility. So poor people in Nigeria are breathing, but their neck is choking, and the government at the federal and the state level, and even the local government level, must continue to seek ways to reduce the suffering of the poor people.
Indy, are the poor breathing? Are they suffocating?
I think that according to what people said, I think that it's we middle class that are choking, and then we are breathing but we are choked. The poor are not breathing.
The president didn't ask for the middle class to be breathing. He said, "Let the poor breathe."
Okay, so what happens to us in the middle class?
Them. I mean, it's what the president said.
Okay,
it was before he got into office. So I'm asking, are the poor breathing, Indy?
I don't think so. The price,
choking.
They are choking beyond its, and when I say this, I would talk as a person again who is number one, middle class, and then I have people who you classify as poor working for me, and it's not. No, it really isn't. It's what is happening now is not feasible for the average Nigerian when we're talking about survival. It's not.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Let me read this to you, and I'd like you to respond. One person is tweeting, and it says, this is at Binola Sylvester. I said, Nigerians are extremely poor. People beg for food every day. Today alone, I refuse to pick 6 different calls.
Yes.
Because I know what they want.
Yeah. And that is what it is. Look, if you get a call today, the first thing will be greeting, pleasantries. Then the person will drop the call and then call back to ask for something. And the amount of money people are asking for, some are asking for things to solve their hospital. If you are one, even those of us in the middle class, you are one ailment away from extreme poverty. But for these people, sometimes, it's 5,000, sometimes it's 500. All round, everywhere, from an organization where I pay people up to 200,000, 350,000. these people are asking for money. They are looking for money. Nigerians, and you have to also recognize that if I'm saying that an organization pays 350, 200 in Nigeria, that is considered something. That is considered quite the salary because of the poverty rate in Nigeria. And even for those ones, the gnashing of teeth on the transportation, cost of food, it really is terrible all around. It's terrible all around.
There's another one, Indy. It's Ayo Oluwa Yetunji at AY_Yetunji. He tweeted and says, some poorest of the poor are already in coma from some of these policies. Palliative needs to continue to flow until the suffocation stops.
Yeah. Again, what we had suggested, you need to cushion the effects. Look, government must operate with empathy, Sheon. At the end of everything, empathy is key. Government must, you may have all of these great ideas, but the number one thing on your mind must be the people. And when you are governing, that's it. The people and empathy. I've seen many people. In fact, we have an example in Kaduna State where a person is so brilliant. A person has all these policies and all of that, but then empathy is lacking. And when empathy is lacking, you can't call that a good government. And government. You are the president of Nigerians, and you clawed your way, did everything within and out of your power to get in there. You must put the people first, and you must govern with empathy. We're not going anywhere without empathy.
Let me get some views, and I like to. Or is Deepa, you want to say something to that? Those who are commenting that people are suffocating and they are out of breath already.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the president speaks in very philosophical terms. My response basically was literally, are people breathing? Yes, they are. Are they choked? Yes, definitely, they are choking. But indeed, made a point a couple of minutes ago. I'm not sure if I heard that well. People earning 250,000 or 300,000 naira. I don't know if those people can be classified as extremely, extremely poor. I mean, I'm not sure if I got that point.
They are not.
Right.
That's the point, that they are not extremely poor, and yet they are feeling the bites. And I have all this, all this stuff. I have people who earn that amount, and I have people who earn like 60,000 naira working for me still. And across this, and people who earn 30,000, and across this, these people, all of them, the cry is the same. Those at the level of 200 and 350,000 are crying because they have to adjust. And this adjustment is not easy. It's not easy at all. And for those who are earning as low as 60,000, it really is bad for them. They can't even, salary can no longer cover transportation and feeding. It can't cover before you even talk of other things. So now we're thinking of how we're going to increase salaries from this. And then those of us who have to increase their salaries, we have to, these salaries, we have to think of where the money is going to come from. So it's really gnashing of teeth all around. I'm not saying that their salary is poor, but I'm saying even for those ones, even for those ones, things are not easy. So imagine further down the line. I mean, there was a time. Yeah. Deepa, sorry to interject. There was a time when if you're earning that amount of money, you could easily buy a brand new Kia. There was a time that money meant you were a big boy in this Abuja, and right now it does not. You are a public transportation taking person trying to survive. So we need to.
That was 10 years ago, Indy.
Yes, I mean it's not bad to look back at 10 years and say, Deepa, why aren't we buying Kia again? Deepa.
Things are going to get better. I mean, we have people who run some of our businesses in Lagos as well, and of course we get these complaints. There's no fuel once in a while. Cost of transportation. So I perfectly understand. That things are very difficult for a lot of people. I just wanted us to make that distinction between, those who are earning 250K to 250 to 350K with those who can be classed as being at the bottom of the pyramid, those who are earning 30K and 40K. And what I would like to see, going forward, and this is not a 4-year, 5 years, implementation or policy. This is like 10, 15, 20 years. We need to get more people into education. We need to get more people with vocational skills, okay? So that people are not earning, so that we have fewer people who are earning 30K, 40K, whatever amount of money is going to be in the next 5 years or 10 years, so that we have a lot more people in the middle class, or even, somewhere closer to the middle class and far away from the bottom of the pyramid.
Listen to these two comments, and they're touching. One from Daddy Ama. He says, a cleaner is paid 50,000 naira salary, and at the end of the day, he spends 5,500 on transportation every week. So 5,500 times 4, that's about 23,000, or about 22,000. What will now be his take home at the end of the day if he has spent that amount on transportation? He will be left with about 20-something thousand. Yeah. So another tweet coming from Abulime Ozigi Frank. He says, for the first time as a level 7 public servant, my salary cannot sustain me. Imagine buying fuel 3 times the amount you previously bought and salary remains the same.
Sure. I would, as I've noted before, I would recommend to the government, that the salaries of public officials, that they are increased. I would also like to add, recommend
what figure will you be recommending? There is a 13,000 naira minimum wage right now.
Sure, I don't work for revenue mobilization and fiscal
No.
commission.
I mean, you can suggest as a citizen of Nigeria. I mean, there is an amount on my mind that I think might just be all right as a minimum wage.
Maybe 100,000 naira. 100,000 naira as minimum wage, I believe, would be decent. But the other point I was going to make is that we need to have social safety nets, for those at the bottom of the pyramid. For the poorest of the poor, we need to have safety net for these people. And it is not safety nets that government officials will be diverting 20% or 30% of the monies meant for poor people into their own pocket or for their own cronies. Let the monies for the safety net for those at the bottom of the pyramid go to the communities and to the individuals who actually need that help. Because if we don't do these things, one day the poor will have absolutely nothing to eat and they will turn on the rich. So besides increasing the salaries, of public civil servants across our federal and state governments, we also need to ensure that our social safety net, that it works.
All right. Let me take some tweets, some responses now. Let's hear from the average Nigerian, from the different parts of Nigeria, what their views are. I really want to hear real life scenarios of how Nigerians are coping. Whether or not you are breathing on I want to know your breathing levels. Maybe we need more doctors these days to allow people not to suffocate. So that people will not suffocate. Let me bring in, first and foremost, our very first speaker is at Ibirogba 2000. I like you to make it very straightforward so that we can get as many people as possible into the conversation. Are you breathing, Ibirogba? Adebisi?
Thank you so much, Sheil. Good afternoon, everyone. Greetings to Ogbeni Dikpo and Indicato. Brilliant submission from both of you. I'm so happy to have listened to you. Both of you come up with brilliant suggestions, actually, even though you have of different leanings. Anyway, so I want to quickly make some suggestions, some of the comments. To be honest with you, yes, I understand that Nigerians are really going through, some Nigerians are going through a hard time because of the situation of the removal of subsidy. It's something that has been in the pipeline due to some other Nigerians' greediness, trying to make more profit, moving the truck outside of Nigerian borders and making Nigeria to keep paying for subsidies that they are not actually using. So in a way, that tells us that subsidy has to go, But like Bendiko has also posited that there should be a safety net, which I think President Buhari initially was trying to push across. That's the 800 million. We are not hearing anything about it right now, but I think that should also quickly be brought on stream, and they should get somebody that can manage that fund properly so that it goes directly to the people that are really affected. However, it seems the two parties in the studio has not really spoken about the governors. You were asking Ogbeni Dikpo the other time that how much do you think will be the minimum wage that can make a poor man to breathe? I was thinking maybe 70,000, but Ogbeni Dikpo said 100,000. I believe that federal government will be able to pay 100,000 minimum wage, but the question is, will the state governor be able to pay that? That's the question, because majority of the civil servants that are currently, I think majority are under the purview of the state and the local government. So if those ones are not up and doing, then no matter what the federal government does, it's just going to be like a drop in the ocean. You know what I mean? So that is that one. So, however, I think the president also met with the governors. I hope the governors will find reason to allow the poor to breathe. Also, keep in mind that inflationary rates all over the world have skyrocketed. It's not just Nigeria alone. He has talked about the UK, cost of living in the UK, and all of those places. Nigerians also need to find a way to quickly adjust, not to sit back and blame the government all day and say that this is caused by this. Inflationary rate has skyrocketed all over the world. You can ask anybody and they will tell you. So whichever way, you have to adjust. Thank you so much, Shion.
Thank you so much, Aderogba. But you are breathing. Are you okay? I just want to be sure. Are you fine?
I'm breathing by the grace of God.
Oh, fine. Thank God. And Nigerians are very religious. All right. Thank you so much. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord for you breathing. All right. Let's get another person into the conversation at Emperor 24 Olu. Hi, Olu.
Yeah, hi today.
What are your breathing levels?
Yeah, I'm breathing. I'm all right. I'm eating.
You don't sound like you're in Nigeria.
No, I'm in the UK right
now.
Oh,
okay. That's why your breathing levels are very fine. For some people may not be breathing very well here. So
yeah, to be honest, it's more or less different when compared to Nigeria. Yeah, it's a good. My concerns about Nigeria every day. Since last year, I said, okay, let me join. Let me throw in different conversation, and I see it's going bad, very bad, very, very bad. I will not be speaking in the perspective of myself. I will pick up the topic that concerns everyone. There are Nigerians that are suffering, a lot of suffering. Even the one that have the money, suffering of so many things. Energy supply, the grid always down. There's no 24 hours light supplies that run so many business. I pay people salaries. I have to increase their salary because of the subsidy removal. Yet it's not enough. So for saying that middle class and the bottom line and so they are all partaking in these sufferings together. So the worst one that you don't have adequate food, adequate supplies, adequate so many things. We look far away, but I speak to Nigerians every hour because my business is there. So I know what they are going through. Odika, I don't know if I pronounce your name. You have spoken my mind. Even the one that hands money are suffering. So the government that comes now complaining that our treasury is almost empty, subsidy is gone, that we have to start from somewhere. Now, fine, we started from somewhere, but it's affecting us. The people that are stealing our oil thieves and all these things, taking it to another countries, we understand. But the masses are suffering this. We just come out from what they call it, changing of nairas that affected the whole lockdown, the whole nations. No money, even the one that have money can't transfer. So we have to be buying naira. We just get it from there and subsidy again. So the government has to play hard. They have to have the sympathies on the citizens. Yes, there are policy that you said you campaign that you want to do, but there should be an implementation before you remove subsidy. That is my problem. You can use all excuses for this. I will listen to you, but the masses first. I will be on the side of Nigeria, not on the side of. We are talking about 30 30,000 naira minimum wage that some of these state governments are still owing. They are owing pensioners. If I'm lying here, anybody can dispute this. They are owing pensioners. Some police are not well paid. The people that are on front line fighting for Boko Haram, they are not well fed. They are not well paid. So there are a lot of things to handle. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he has so many tasks to do, so many loopholes. So I don't know. I wish him good luck, because this Nigeria have destroyed so weird that any government that want to it only remain on a miracle that will be doing something will be going smoothly. So Nigeria is suffocating. Nigeria they don't breathe. I will say it. They don't breathe because the suffering is too much. It's too much. I'm speaking from something that I'm experiencing every day, and there are so many calls on my begging for money coming to me now. It's Salah time. I transfer 300,000. They are still asking for 200,000 man. Because they said the tomato has gone up, this one has this ram has, because it's my duty.
Are these your family members back at home?
Of course, it's my duty. My father is gone, so it's my duty. If even my brothers have to send the extra money, I have to send too. These are the obligation in my family. I'm speaking for my family now. So what about the rest? They can't even afford the basket of tomatoes and all this stuff. So, and it wasn't like this before. Previous year, 5 years, it wasn't like this. So things are getting weird. Anybody that want to use all grammar to modernize everything that is going on is fooling himself. It's not in the problem. He doesn't have the symptoms of Nigeria.
Yeah.
So let us talk to the fact that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he has so many challenges to face right now. I wish him good luck, because these things are getting
good luck
weird.
with the former president. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Shil.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Olu, for your intervention. Let me bring in Dr. Dab at Dab for Youth. Hi, Doc. How are you today?
Sure.
You don't have a problem.
You think so? Oh, you think so? My WhatsApp now is on intermittent off and on. I look carefully before I cross the road these days.
Why that? Why that?
Believe me, I mean, people think that once you live in diaspora or something, you don't know or you don't feel the brunt of what's going on. Believe me, it's even double, because the expectation is tough. People naturally believe that, oh, you work in the US or in the UK, you should send money home. And of course, look at the remittance home. We constantly take care of people that are home. So the pressure, whatever happens in Nigeria, people who live abroad feels the pressure. And that's why we contribute a lot. Unfortunately, people don't like that, but it's the reality. But you see, the impact, anything that happens in Nigeria, it's widespread. And speaking to the topic, you said something which I think was not emphasized enough. I think we've lost the real meaning, or the job function of government, what government should be doing, and what they set them up for. You see, the point of the government is to make sure life is bearable for Nigerians, to share the wealth in an equity way, and make sure that the vulnerable among us is well taken care of. And that conversation lays on the fact that even removing subsidy ab initio, why should the poor pay for the inefficiency of a government? If you're saying that they're stealing fuel via Cameroon, or some rich gangs have been able to corner the fuel and they are making money off an inefficient system, that is not the business of the poor. The poor should not pay for that. If a product is coming from a country and is shared evenly among the populace, that is great. It is not a luxury. It is a right. And that is speaking to the fact that even if you're removing subsidy, it means that you are inefficient. You cannot take care of the security situation. You cannot take care of the corruption part of it. Then you're like, let the poor pay for it. That is number one. If we now say, fine, removing subsidy is a great deal. Let us look at what you have done in the past. Let us look at how you have implemented policies in the past. It seems that you constantly ignore that lower socioeconomic structure. Look at what they have done with even closing the border. The intention probably was right, but as the price of rice reduced, as insecurity reduced, look at what they did with the Naira redesign. Look at the hardship caused by the Naira redesign. What has happened? Look at everything they have done in the past. I do not think that Nigerians have benefited, especially the Nigerians in the lower economic structure, which is the most of the population. So the government and the party is becoming a textbook kind of party, that it looks beautiful on ground. Whenever you have that conversation and you go to the grassroots and say, how are people feeling? And the conversation is that they are not breathing, there's problem, then it means that no matter how beautiful a policy is, it is bad. It's not working. And you see, they have the job description to fix that. You know that you are, even in a mixed economy, you have to regulate things. Whenever you say the price of something, maybe the petroleum something, you want to remove subsidy, people started selling at 1,000 per liter. Whenever you say that you want to pay student loan, people start jacking up the price. So eventually, you go back to status quo. Do you understand? So it is a conundrum that we'll find ourselves.
So
that
even the issue of the student loan, I've had to discuss this on channels television and politics today. It doesn't look as straightforward. Dr. Dikwa was talking about that if you ask some lawmakers, they've criticized. They said the public hearing was a sham. It wasn't properly exposed to the people for them to make contribution. That loan bill, Dr. Dikwa, I'm just drawing your attention to this. Go and ask members of the 9th Assembly. A lot of them have a lot to say about how that bill got passed. And the people who are criticizing to say there is a major problem is implementation is going to be very difficult. Go ahead.
You see, I'm not even applauding that student loan, because I know that the problem we have is not solely the access to education because of finance. The major issue we have is the quality and the job market of our graduates. You see, if we create enough jobs for graduates, when people graduate from school, they have jobs to do. Believe me, a lot of people will funnel through that education pathway naturally. Then you take care of the 2.5 at the lower end of it that could not make it because of indigenous, maybe they are really poor or something. So it is even what UK is doing. The UK economy is booming because of their educational economy. A lot of money. US is booming. The average cost of education in US is crazy. In the UK is crazy. Why are they doing that? Because they know that once you have a degree from either of the countries or the school, you are going to be a very viable, you get something off the market for it. So I think the major issue is to making sure that our in an economy where they are already saying that school is a sham, because people are not seeing the benefit of education. People are already calling education a scam. Because they are not. So why should I go to school when I know that? Why should I collect loan to go to school when I know that at the end of the day I might not get the benefit of that education? So I believe that the student loan, again, textbook looks great, but fix the job market. Make sure there's develop infrastructure. Let the job boom. In fact, it is the job that will dictate the type of education our schools will be teaching. And that is the way to actually be thoughtful about these things. So I think they just roll up and toss out these coins for Nigerians and say, take this, and roll with the punches. And unfortunately, we come here, people that should also be talking for us in the House, the legislators, they are collecting over 200 billion per year, and they are all quiet. And Nigerians have taken the job function of discussing and during the talk. So it is very unfortunate. Right. I do not give them any kudos. I need it 1 month in, but really, it's not. We're still in the same boat. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you so much. Let me bring in Emmanuel Owa too. Let's make it very sharp and very concise so that we can get to hear from a few more people before we get back to the speakers and wrap up.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening once again.
Good evening.
The cost of living actually has got to a stage where you won't keep the living. Let me talk it in that way. Cost of living won't keep the living.
What is your own experience, Emmanuel?
My experience, I will talk about my experience. I will give you one of yesterday. Today Saturday. On Friday morning, one of the cleaners that comes from Mararaba part of the, let's say Abuja, and he works. I work with the government, and he came. The woman came very early in the morning, and she was weeping. Her salary in that as a cleaner there, there was a contract staff there, around 20,000 naira. I got to know yesterday, and normally where she take a vehicle from that place to around Airport Road, normally was to be 300 naira before the subsidy removal. Now it costs her sometimes 800 naira, and the only favorable thing the opportunity she have is that when staff are going back to that end, she follow the staff motto, and that's how that one doesn't cost anything much. But coming alone is 800 naira, and if you divide it, if you calculate it to 20 days or 21 days as it is, sometimes they may even call them to come and work over the weekend. That will give you around the fact that the person that you are supposed to be working actually is not working. And yesterday, her son was very sick. Her son was very sick. There are some times even though you don't have, you just have to look for how to solve this particular one, because it's quite touching, unless your conscience will be at rest if you do so. But if you don't do so, somebody like me, I will be very, very disturbed. So that's kind of thing situation we have. And this is what is going on. I personally will be doing my wedding next month. And I know what it is to buy food on the street.
Are you inviting us? Emmanuel?
It's an indirect invitation. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, just send the invitation to the public here.
Okay, I will do it after now. So
congratulations, though.
Thank you, sir. So, but what it means is that the amount of money I had in mind before May 29 has increased very tremendously, that if my wife to be calls me now, my mind will jump up, because something else will come up, and I know that will be the case. But what it means is that people are going through a lot. Me, I said it very clearly that the president did not mean, he never meant the word "it is gone" in the same way that the marketers pushed it today. Yeah. But it will be irresponsible for the government to say, "Oh, let us go back to tell them no," because June is already here and July is when they are starting the removal. Let us bring out the policy and encourage what is going on already. But my follow-up is that the government will have pushed through the policies direction, a direction that will say, this is what we have, this is the timeline of what these things will be, these are what we are bringing on board. Like we had in 2012, when Jonathan was working with the governors to create the mode of transportation around the country and how they could reduce it in that sense too. That should be the proactive measure that the president will have taken in that sense immediately. So that's not the case, and this thing is affecting people from left to right, and it's not easy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me take another person here. First light at Bright Ibitoye. Please jump on it quickly. Your mic is on.
Hi, Sean. Hi, Sean. Thank you very much. Nice hearing from you.
Thank you.
Indeed, it's nice to hear your voice on the other side, not on the political jingles. I mean, nice to hear you on this point. A nice one. And the other person there. Look, guys, for me, I've said in several spaces, I'm tired of complaining. It doesn't change the situation. My vehicle now is about 36,000 naira to fill it. Unfortunately for me, a couple of last week, my engine had problem. To buy my car engine is a 1.2 million naira. To fix it, I just bought the spare part. It's about 280,000 naira.
That's someone's salary. That's someone's salary.
I'm telling you. Now, you know, another thing I think, first, let me give solution. I think as it is now, we need to revamp our urban mass transit. As like yesterday, that need to be revamped so that all those routes that people, because look, I've been following my neighbor down my house to my office. His office is very close to my office. He is in the National Hospital. My office is around there too. So he picks me up in the morning, drop me. In the evening, I come back with a couple of colleagues that lives in my area. And this is what I've been doing for 2 weeks. And guess what? It opens my eyes to so many things. I mean, if you live in Abuja, there is what we call along, as it is. I have not tested, I've used it. I usually take Uber or the rest of them. But this particular day, I decided to say, let me even see these things, how it works. From my office, there is certain place I can stand, and I will take a cab from there along to right in front of my estate. Guess what costs me? It's just 400 naira. Against if I have to take Uber, sometimes I take Uber from the office if I stay late. I take Uber. Uber takes before this increment, it takes me 1,100 naira. But now it's about 2,800 naira. But guess what? 400 naira. It used to be 200, but it took me only 400 naira to get to my house. So I said to myself, if I had to get to that place, all I need to do is to take a 5-minute walk to that place. From that place to my house is 400 naira. Believe you me, it's another thing I have seen. I have learned that. So meaning that if I don't want to go with my car, I could follow my neighbor to the office and then take 400 naira bus back to my house. But why I'm saying that that urban mass need to be revamped. And if it's going to be revamped, I don't think it should be left in the hand of government. All those buses, I think it's another avenue to create jobs. If you have those, let it start working, taking all the routes in Abuja, because this is what the people in the society, buses all practically everywhere, both in the villages, able to revamp those buses and then go back to the state also need to have something of that sort, so that everybody will not need to put his vehicle on the road. That for me, I think is very important. The second thing, I would prefer a living wage, not minimum wage. Look, let's be honest to ourselves. The amount you spend in Abuja is not the same thing with what you spend in Nasarawa. It's not the same thing with what you spend in Kaduna. It's not the same thing with what you spend in Kano. It's not the same thing with what you spend in Ebonyi. It's not also the same thing with what you spend in Oyo or Ogun State. So for me, let every state pay for our constitution is make it the other way around. You have to be a governor who is proactive on how to generate funds from the state in terms of agriculture, in terms of revenue mobilization, and in terms of programs that can open up the state for business. I am telling you, we have to start running it like a proper business now. It's no longer this issue of you're going to be doesn't have it for us to arrive at the end of the tunnel. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I have a minute and a half before I return to the speakers. That means I can only take 30 seconds per respondents on the Twitter space. So I'll take 30 seconds. Let me take Sina Agwedu at *6_66. Just 30 seconds for your intervention quickly.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. I think I have a problem with the way Nigerian politics has accepted neoliberalism as the norm, because we really need to question some of the claims of neoliberalism. And then when we talk about subsidy removal, no policy is either good or bad. It depends on how you implement it to benefit the people. I remember that in the mid-90s, when I went to secondary school, and Abacha partially removed subsidy, they used it to fund PTF. And I remember I had free education, free textbooks, and the rest. When Goodluck Jonathan attempted to remove the subsidy in 2012, there was Shopee that cushioned the effect. And then on minimum wage, I think there is, in terms of money, we have real value and nominal value. sometimes when we increase minimum wage, we only increase nominal value and not real value. What we need to do is to make sure that our currency improves so that we will not just increase it minimally. I'll give you one example. Just this example. What professors were earning as of 2011, it was equivalent to around $3,300. But what they are earning today is around $661. So even if you do a 150% increment, it will still not be up to what it was then. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Let me get another 30 seconds from Sheye Light, Sheye Olufemi. A quick one. 30 seconds, please.
Thank you very much. Women.
Where are the women? Go ahead, please.
All right, thank you, Sharon. Good evening. Good evening, Dikato. Good evening, Open people. Well, I'm going to say that you see the way the present government just came with the policies and all, it kind of raised it made it on the policy because the kind of system we run in Nigeria. You just need to give people a little news. They'll take it over. In the space of how many weeks, everything has skyrocketed. I'll give you a live example. I was in a filling station a few weeks ago, yeah, and a bike man was complaining seriously. Even with the way they've hiked the price and all, he cannot even he cannot sustain himself with the bike business again because there's a limit at which you can push people. Once you price it too much, once you make your price too much, they don't mind trekking. People don't mind trekking now because there's no way they can just meet up with the whole thing. So he was complaining that people are not taking their bikes again because once you say certain prices, they will not answer you. So these things have become a very big thing. And on the side of the government, once you are pushing policies like this, you to push policies that will encourage the people. The government is pushing policies, they are introducing policies. I expect that as they are introducing policies that are bringing it on the government, on the citizens, they should also be introducing policies that would make people encourage, like cutting down cost of governance. You've introduced so many things. You've removed fuel subsidy. You are introducing higher tariff in terms of electricity. Why not you to cut down cost of governance, reduce excess spendings and all, so that the people will feel encouraged. They will know that okay, you guys are doing these things, which we are accepting parts, and you guys are accepting parts. But it's as if everything is just on the part of citizenry. And another thing, the government is testing the water. Just test the water a little bit and see the reaction of people. Like the one of the increase in 114% that came out the other time. If it's a news or not, it does not mean it's not the kind of time that you say this type of things. The people are hungry already, and you brought that type of news. You just tested the waters and see their reactions. You don't bring that type of. You are not sensitive to the plight of the people. Instead of you to be bringing news that will encourage them, you are bringing news that will make them more angry. And is making people already kind of want to question the credibility of even the new government that has come in. So I'm thinking that if the government can just on their own side introduce certain things, cut down cost of governance, people are suffering in the background. And you are talking about Empower the other time. I can tell you categorically, the last set of Empower and the people that the last government admitted, I have a few of them. Since January, they have not been paid. And yes, since January they have not been paid.
So sad. All right.
The backlog of everything is just on the people on the lower side of the pyramid. That is very, very, very painful. So I hope this government will do something fast.
Yeah, thank you so much. I can see two people's hands, and I'm tempted to take them in 40 seconds. I don't know how this can happen. Olamilekon 2100 and Bamiyinka 05. I'm tempted to take the two of them quickly. Because we have little time left. So Olamilekon, you shoot first. All right. If it's not there, maybe we can take Bamiyinka 05.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So quick things I just want to mention really is that I think the federal government is the focus for everybody, but I think the focus will also shift to the state government, because if the federal government is saying that they have implemented policies that will generate more revenue and will share more revenue to the state governors, then the state governors now need to introduce mass transit buses and they also need to do data collection to be able to stratify people and identify people who actually need urgent needs, and then maybe use a NIN number to distribute some kind of subscription for them every month, at least provide buses, provide suspension for the lowest of the society, while all the implementation of the other policies begin to materialize and start to create opportunities and jobs, for at least just for people to breathe for the period before the reality starts to materialize. So I think that will help a long way. But I think the particular attention should be focused on the state governments. They need to do more.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let's take maybe a final one. Hello?
Good evening.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. I appreciate everyone I've been speaking since. So I'll be speaking as a core member. So just imagine me serving as a core member. I spend almost 5,000 daily, and I'm earning 33K every month. To even save or eat is a problem. We are suffocating. Me as I am like this. I'm not breathing.
You need to breathe, because you need the energy to serve your nation in the rain or in the sun. What was your song? What was it? That song what was your NYC anthem?
I can't read it. I don't have the strength.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Under the sun and in the rain. You have to breathe. Stand strong, my brother.
Why did I obey the prayer call? Why? Why did I obey the prayer call? I'm staying in Abuja. I don't have accommodation. I sleep wherever the night makes me.
Wow.
So how do you want to survive?
Wow.
They are paying us even though our primary phase of primary assignment, they are not paying us.
Yeah.
And if you miss the day, they will say they will report you to NYC headquarters, or they will not give you your letter to do a clearance monthly.
Wow.
How is that one doing? And you said you are the youth, we are the leader of tomorrow. We are tired.
So my brother, I've been told by my producers, we do two things for you and for the lady that was mentioned by one of the speakers on the Twitter Spaces. For you, we will do you 50,000 naira. Macon Podcast will give you 50,000 naira to assist in this biting economic condition. And also, there was someone who mentioned, thank you so much, for someone also who talked about the lady that you spoke about. Please send us the cleaner. So we are going to also give her a 50,000 naira to just support them. So just give us details and just give us some more information about these persons, and we will, the producers will reach out.
Mr. Activist is the one that mentioned the lady.
Yeah, thank
Mr.
you.
Activist.
Please, Mr. Activist, please, we will need that information. Thank you so much. Indicator was asking if there is no lady, and I saw her earlier. There was
here.
Oh, fantastic. We will not end these reactions without getting yours. Please, we'll give the floor to you. Please, your quick intervention before we conclude this.
Yeah, my quick intervention is government needs to do mass transit as at yesterday.
Yeah.
Lagos State government rolled out Blue Line. I mean, they commissioned it. How many months ago now? It's not working. I live in UK. I sold my car 18 years ago. And I went out today with bus and train. So they can copy and paste.
And it doesn't mean that you cannot afford a car.
No, I don't know. I have a license. I rent a car when I need a car. Or I go by Uber, or people pick me up. So like today, okay, I'll give you this example. TFL, when you go on buses, once you've done three journeys, they will cap it. They won't take your money again. So today I went to a lot of places so I can use my £5.10. So government needs to look into that kind of thing. And not everybody is a civil servant. They're only talking of civil servants increasing their wage. 85% of Nigerians are self-employed. People are complaining that it's biting hard. They should look at giving people transport voucher for students. Students should travel free. Students in UK from 11 years to 18 years, they travel free. University students, when I did my master's, I had That was the time I would go into zone 1 in London because they would give me discounts. I had 25% discount on the rail. So government should look into all of that. There is no one size fits it all.
Thank you
They
so
should
much.
please roll out mass transport, please.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. But good news for the two persons that were reaching out to. Dr. Dikwa Awojide has added 50,000 naira each to what we're giving out on Micon Podcast to these persons. The lady cleaner and my brother who is a core member. You need to breathe and you need to sing that song.
I don't know.
Under the rain.
I think I said I wasn't breathing too. Why is nobody?
You're not poor.
Why is nobody like?
You're doing fine, Indy. Thank you so much, Dr. Dikwa Awojide. It's touching the stories that we have heard on the Micon Podcast, and this is the essence of what we're doing to also let out those things that are going on in our society. Well, I want us to wrap up now. Indy, what's your final thoughts on what the issue of let the poor breathe?
I think we have said everything, but the angle I think I would end with is, please, we need to cut cost of governance now. After all is said and done, I know that should we call it a false flag, or what happened with RMAFC and the increase of salaries?
I think, for those who understand how government works, usually they will make a proposition. They will
watch the
procedurally it will go before the final approval. From what I heard, and I tried to make a lot of finding, even within themselves in AFC, they did not agree. So it was not. The president, the former president, did not approve of it. So this present government is not even aware of that kind of arrangement.
Yeah, they were so eager.
But that kind of thing was very sensitive.
Yeah, very, very sensitive. One of them even ran to TV to talk. So some of these things we don't want to hear. And what we want to hear is cutting the costs now. We even want to hear, like, this is a good time for the president to come and say, you know what, I'm taking a salary cut. For the National Assembly to reduce their spending and all of that. So we have talked enough about, the cushion the effect. But please, in the spirit of good governance, in the spirit of being on the same page with the people, we need to cut the cost of governance. And our lawmakers, our executive members, all of them, they earn too much in a country where many people, most Nigerians are poor. This disparity is too much. And I think that we need to have a whole conversation about what they're earning. Show that's another show, what they're earning, and they need to cut it. Somebody also said that an entire show should be dedicated to the student loan. And I think so. We covered it a bit here.
I studied that bill, and I think there's a major problem.
Good.
But
so
they will soon realize that they need to go back and review it because it might not be as realistic.
Great. So I think the conversation can be kickstarted here. This is a wonderful platform. So two things for me: the earnings of those in power, and number two, student loan. We need to have a whole other conversation on that. And I think people have already covered what this suffering is like, and we've already talked enough about how the government needs to cushion the effect for people. So thank you,
Dr. Awojide. Your final thought.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And thank you so much, Dr. Awojide, for your kindness and your generosity. We really do appreciate. Thank you so much, Dr. Awojide, for your kindness and generosity for these people.
Thank you so much, Joe. I wasn't so happy listening to all of these personal experiences, and I hear these experiences from some of my friends and some of my family members as well. And this is why I'm going to reiterate that, besides all of the macro policies that the government is, the new administration is implementing, there are a few more things that the government actually needs to start doing immediately. They need to increase the minimum wage. They need to manage inflation. They need to invest in human capital, and, create an enabling environment where more jobs are going to be created. Of course, they need to reduce the cost of governance. That definitely is one of the priorities. And, we need to continue to address poverty and inequality across the country. But at the individual level, I also have, and this might not be applicable to everybody. And again, this might be, something else that we want to talk about at another point in time. If you don't have basic education, you don't have university or secondary education, why are you having 6 children or 7 children and 4 wives or 3 wives? I think, voices like those of Emir Sanusi, Lamido Sanusi, who has been championing girl child education, in northern Nigeria and of course all across the country, and encouraging people to reduce the number of children that they have. I think we need to continue to amplify those voices, because the government has a whole lot of work to do, but you cannot go and have 7 kids and not have decent education, training, and skills and start blaming the government for poverty. Again, this is not applicable to majority or to the entire population, but a subset of the population. So I would like to sympathize with those who are living in hardship. Sorry that this is happening. In the long run, I hope that all of the things that the government is doing, the new administration is doing, that they will be positive and we will all benefit, from all of these policies. Thank you, Sheikh.
Thank you so much. I must thank both of you, Indicator and Dr. Dikwa Awojide. It's such a pleasure having you on tonight. Thank you so much indeed. And for all of those who contributed one way or the other by being on the podcast, and those who are on the stream, thank you so much indeed. Well, there you have it. At least there is a consensus that these are hard times. There's also a school of thought that a reset is ongoing and it may come with some hard spiral effect, not only on the poorest of the poor. The middle class is shrinking fast as well. Now, the metaphorical question again, are the poor breathing? Well, it doesn't seem like a straight yes answer. More actions are needed, a new direction to solve these economic security challenges and other key areas of our lives. It's not good enough to implement a policy. What effects will it have on the people in the short and long run? Empathy on the part of the government is prescribed as the balance. Social safety nets are also prescribed as a way to help the poor navigate these tough times. Obviously, there are a lot of work to be done by the new administration, and this is expected at all levels and tiers of government. May we not suffocate, and may Nigeria survive. Thank you all for being part of this thought-provoking conversation. I'll see you next time. Bye for now, everyone.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Mike On Podcast with Sheon Okimbaloi. Mike On Podcast for the independent mind. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Mike